It's
Yeah.
life, yeah. So as far as your health, though, in the whole journey of this and the demands for the move and the contractors, and I know you've lost a lot of weight. Tell me about what's going on there. What's going on with your health here?
Look, I tell you what, I've gone from, when I think about a year and a half ago, I weighed myself, I was 83 kilograms. But I felt really puffed and like almost like I was retaining so much fluid or something. And now I'm down to 64. So that's 19 kilograms.
Right, right.
That's a,
That's a lot. 40 pounds in 40, 44, 45 pounds.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, in a year. So, but there's no way I could do all this if I didn't have the energy, and I would have been completely stuffed a year and a half ago. Because I've had a lot of stress on my plate, and I've just handled it really well, you know. But this is nothing. I just, my biggest stress was I lost my dog last November, and that to me was like I just didn't think I was going to be able to cope very well and things like that because a pet's like a child, so to speak. But I sort of grieved for a month or two and started picking up again. But it did take a lot out of me.
What about I think about, it's so weird how like my brain works. So I think about you, and this is not like any type of judgment, but I think about being on like an angle, like, and then not being able to be in the car and going on the roundabout and so
Yeah.
forth, in
Yep.
terms of not being acclimated to, your horizon, almost like, like one of those things that would be in a plane and it would tell you like where
Yep.
where you are. And I see that not working for you. How does that work for you now?
Well, look, I drive around the roundabouts all the time, all the time now. So I actually don't even think about it. I just do it. Um, which, before, if I'd be approaching the roundabout, I'd be starting to trip out thinking, oh, what's going to happen? So it was kind of really brought about by my way of thinking as well. And you really, to heal, as you know, you've really got to change your way of thinking, and you have to want it. It's as
Right.
simple as that. I mean, no one can be healed if they don't want it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so I really had to look at things differently. But I still do feel off balance. But
Right.
it's how I deal with it now that's the difference.
Right.
I don't,
Right.
I
How you
don't
perceive it. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
perception. I don't avoid it anymore. You kind of have to destigmatize yourself and face things front on and not think. I don't think now. I sort of say to myself, look, there's no easy way out around this. You're just going to have to do it. So that's what
Right.
I do. And I don't jump up and down about it. My stress response is so much. It's just dropped. It's
Right.
just not. And I do think that has been the game changer. And I do think what I think has been a real change for me is the pure form and the SAMe.
And a Sammy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the amount that you're eating too, right? Like in terms,
Oh,
not
yeah,
so
yeah.
much. Yeah.
I'm purely like no more than 50 grams of carbs a day, like you said. And
Right.
there will get times that I do want to indulge a bit more, and my body feels that I really need a carb day, like sort of thing. And being Italian, I go to my mother-in-law's for lunch, once every now and then. I do indulge in the plate of pasta, which is like high carb. But I don't suffer from it anymore. Like I don't, the
No.
next it's normal,
Yeah.
I don't feel it.
Yeah, and you got to be a listener, Teresa, of your body when it does require that, especially if you're depleted, if you're on a cycle, or you've been really good and you've been working hard, and maybe even though your perception of stress isn't the same, it's still been somewhat stressful. And your body is like, okay, we got to get some nutrients in us, and we need some carbs in us. Then you should be doing that. So
Yeah,
that's excellent.
but having said
Yeah,
that, I really kind of like watch the carbs I eat. Like it's got to be the
of
good
course.
carbs, not the crap,
Right.
not the donuts and the crap. It's got to be like if I'm going to have a pasta, I'm going to make myself gnocchi from home. I'm going to mash the potato myself. I'm going to add the, you know, the organic flour that hasn't been fortified and
right. It's going to be the good stuff.
It's going to be the good stuff. And that's the way
Right.
I see everything now with what I put in my mouth. Is I look at it like, because I really do think I had high inflammation, Joel. I think you.
Oh, for sure. You did. You did.
You know? And when you cut those foods out, it's funny how you kind of like shrink. And you know that even looking at old photos, you know,
Teresa, your volume went out for a second. Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't hear. Okay. Got you. You said even when you cut, so I didn't hear what you said, the last sentence there.
Yeah. Like I could see myself in the photos, like looking at the photos of how inflamed I actually was.
Right. Right.
You know, and it's funny when you're living it, you don't see it. But
right.
Then when you take a step back and, you know, my whole perception of everything has changed, you know. It's not just a physical journey, you know, it's a mental journey as well. And I'm completely different now to how I was. And my husband's almost like, geez, you're completely different. You know, I was out in the garden yesterday mulching, like, you know, I'm talking about doing big barrows and buckets and everything. And I was out there till 9 o'clock at night doing that. And I'd never be able to do that.
Right,
you know?
right.
You know, and it's like, it's almost like it's a completely different me. My DNA's completely changed. I feel like it has.
That's awesome. What about in terms of activity besides the, you know, because I know you were training triathlons, right? So have you done any resistance stuff, or are you doing any? Yeah.
Well, I'm squatting, like you said. I'm squatting, but But I don't do heavy weights, and I know sort of my limitations. I'm very physically active now in terms of getting stuff done. Like, you know, I'm so mobile now, it's not funny. And to me, that is the activity in itself, because I'm always walking around. I'm always like going from here to there. And, you know, by the end of the day, I still feel like I'm energetic. You know, I still feel like I can't sort of switch off until about 11 midnight, you know, because I'm still feeling like, geez, I can still get some stuff done. But but I have to calm myself down, because like I'm really enjoying the energy, Joel.
Yeah.
And the problem that you've got is like when you do, you've got to be careful not to overdo it. Right. So I kind of have to put myself back in check and say, that's it for today. Switch off. You know, because that was my problem last time. That's how I got into this mess.
That's what got you into this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, that's awesome. And as far as one of the things I still remember was talking about being able to get on a plane and then coming to the U.S. So where are you guys on that? What do you guys?
Well, I'm thinking this year. We're going to do it this year. And we're going to do it when our house is completely finished. Our son is traveling from June till he's there for 4 months. So he's doing going around the world. So we're going to head there around about August.
Okay.
That's
awesome. Yeah.
And I'm going to come and see you.
Yeah, well, we talked about it. You got to keep your word. We talked about you getting on a plane. Yeah. That's amazing. That's so cool. Oh, that's so great. So, you know, I got to ask, I mean, we don't have to do it today, but I would love to be able to do a quick little video and just tell the, you know, people that are in similar situations, you know, I could say, well, I've worked with someone and we changed her DNA literally from, you know, being, you know, immobile and inflamed and puffy and to, you know, being this ball of energy that can now travel and do her thing. I'd love to do that with you, set up a time so that we can do that, because I don't do that very often. And then patients ask me before they start, hey, do you got any testimonials? Like, you know, I do, but I don't really ever go out of my way to get them. And now I got to go out of my way to get them, because that's what I'm
part of a group in Australia as well, the Chronic Fatigue Australia group. And a lot of people have got this problem. A lot of people, when someone posts on there and says this, I post your name, because I do, because And it's funny, like people starting to catch on to you because I'm getting all these likes next to it. So people are familiar with your name now.
That's
like
funny.
Down under, I'm talking about in my country.
Yeah. Well, Teresa, I had think it's by Health Masters. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they're a continuing education for doctors in New Zealand and Australia. And I was asked to talk on adrenal fatigue for one of those talks. Yeah. So that was about a month, maybe almost a month and a half ago now.
Yeah.
And maybe some of it's interesting. I actually, yeah, so that's kind of cool.
I noticed, I've noticed like in the Australian forums, your name's getting in there.
Yeah.
People are starting to catch on to it.
You're making me blush.
And I'd say because down in Australia, all we ever knew was Dr. Don Lewis, who specialised in chronic fatigue. But I saw Don for about 3 or 4 years and got nowhere.
Right.
You know, his theory was dysbiosis, blah, blah, blah. You had a form of Bartonella and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And by the end of 3 years, I'm still bedridden. How could that be? Like, and he put me on all these VSL sachets, which are probiotics. I did antibiotic therapy for 3 months at a time to kill a streptococcus. But, I felt shit. I didn't feel myself. And, there was no mention of altering your diet. There was no mention of, genetic mutations. There was nothing. So, and he's making a small fortune down here because he actually got patients from overseas coming here to see him. And now when I get on there and someone talks about Dr. Don Lewis, I turn around and I say, well, no, don't go there. And I'm only speaking because of how much money it cost me. And 2, it's not money. 2 is there was no benefit. So, so I'm really mindful now that I don't want people, like when, you do get a lot of posts in Australia and people are really, really chronically ill, like I was. And chronically alone with my health. And before we got to the Don Lewises of Australia, we're screwed because you're not getting anywhere, and not only did I see Don Lewis in Australia, I saw, Professor Walquist, I saw a lot of, doctors with PhDs and,
right.
Nowhere. It's nowhere land. And what I'm saying is that, your name is spreading down under. It's like there's a lot of people here that are really chronically sick, and I'm seeing it in the forums. It's growing and growing and growing. The members of how many people have got these mystery illnesses that they're dealing with chronic fatigue of some sort.
Yeah.
And there's no help. There's no, I was there. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. So, I think that your name's getting out down here, and you might have to fly down here, Joel.
It's so funny. Because I see you on Instagram, and I have someone who's from Australia from Instagram. They said, "Did you think about coming to us?" This was just this week, and I said, "Yeah, I've always wanted to go, but now I'm going to go and do some lectures there." And here you are the same week telling me that I have to come. I do want to do that for sure. But I'm just so happy, Teresa, to hear about how you're doing. I know like a lot of the times when we don't hear from a lot of our clients, that it's because they're busy with their life. But usually no news in my mind is good news, because when someone's not doing well, knock on wood, they're telling you, right? But when they're, and you were telling us when you were doing well, we just never kind of realized how well was. But I'm so happy because, I knew when we talked and when we talked about the way you were eating, I'm like, okay, we're going to have some big changes here just based on that alone. And it's a paradigm shift. It's like looking at it completely different. I feel like whenever I get on the call or I do a video and people are going to say to me, what are you going to do that's different? And I'm like, it's a whole different paradigm shift. You're like, think about it as your clock is broken. Really, your clock is broken, and you need to fix that. And a lot of it comes down to inflammation, and a lot of it comes down to how you're eating, not so much what you're eating, but when you're eating. And then you're right, it does come into the genetic component as well. And I'm just so happy where you are. It's so awesome. Oh, your volume went again. Oh, there we are. Okay, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Now you know what I mean by my internet connection. It's
Yeah,
just
right.
the funny thing is, like, I can go with a long period of time. Like if we have dinner early because my husband doesn't like food sitting in his stomach at night, and I don't like it either. So we have dinner around about 5 o'clock, and then there goes the tradesman. If you can hear the drilling,
yeah, I can hear it. I hear it.
Yeah, and then I'll get up in the morning and I don't feel like anything. I can go till about 11 o'clock without wanting to eat. So and because it's more like the keto adapted diet I'm doing, I have a lot of chicken. I'm a chicken person, so my body must really want the protein somehow.
Right.
It's funny how much of a long period your body can go without actually wanting food. Whereas before, when I was chronically ill, I'd want to eat every 2 hours. Like I'd be hungry all the time.
Yeah.
So there was a sign to me that, we really don't have to eat that much to have energy.
That's right. Yeah. If you look at it, Teresa, I mean, I look at it as like 2.5 million years of hunter-gatherer with no light bulbs and getting up at the sunrise and going to bed at sunset or thereafter with no refrigerators. Sometimes we would eat like a lot and then other times we wouldn't eat. But we're not engineered for the new industrial way of living with TVs and phones and refrigerators and multiple foods. And so I just think that we're not engineered that way. And I think that's really important for someone who, with what happened to you, where I really feel that that inflammation and the genetic susceptibilities, you needed to have time where, and I was going to ask you that today, is what's the longest that you do? Like, have you ever done, like, because I still think some of the next level, moving the needle even a little bit more is a lot more difficult now because it was down here, now it's here. But in order to get it here, it's a lot harder. And I think that's where you have to have some black belt ninja moves that aren't the basic ones that you can do. And those would be, to me, like longer fast. Like we're talking about like a 7-day fast or something like that. Wow. So what's the longest that you've done?
Are you talking about just staying on water?
Just on water. Now you could probably do like a couple of little cheating stuff, like a couple of grams of amino acids or like an ounce of MCT. So you're not really getting much, like maybe 100 calories here, 25 there of like protein or MCT, but that's about it. Mostly just water. What's the longest you've done with that?
A day and a half.
All right. So, hey, listen, I think that's one thing that I would recommend you look to do, where let's say Friday at whatever time your last meal is, make it an early dinner, make it say 4 o'clock, and then do your next meal at 9 or 10 on Monday. Try that.
Wow. You reckon I could survive that?
Yeah, I know you will. I mean, don't do it around the time of your cycle. Do it when you're nice and healthy and energetic. And probably you could have a little bit of MCT oils in the morning, each morning. Like if you wanted to have maybe a tea or something warm, you could still feel like you have that. Like you want to feel like you got something, like you just feel like.
I can't have coffee, can I?
Well, you could. But I would do tea. So you have a tea and you have a little bit of MCT oils in there so that you're getting a little bit of that kickstart of the ketones. And then maybe a little bit of amino acids, like very little bit, like maybe a couple grams. And then you do that on Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and then by about Monday would probably be over the hump. You could break the fast. Usually the 48 to 72 hours is when we start to want that food, right? Get that, I gotta eat kind of thing. And if you're stressed, it's not going to work. Like if you got people around the house and they're doing their thing, but then the contractor doesn't show up and then you feel a little bit of a stress thing, it's gonna go against you. But I do think that's your next level of healing, because think of it as when you get deep into those long fasted states, that's where your body really cleanses and repairs and regenerates and sets down stem cells. And that's where you would be, like, for me to know with what I know about you, that would be the next level of, oh, wow, like I've now moved the needle the next level. But doing what you're doing, you're still doing it, just not at the rate that would accelerate you a little bit further.
Yeah, like I don't have a proper regimen really with eating now. Like, you know, I just kept saying I'm not hungry, you know, like, and I only eat now when I'm hungry, which
right.
I think is a good way to listen to my body. Whereas before, you know, I don't believe in this breakfast, lunch and dinner and then snacks in between. And you see people having 6 to 8 meals a day, saying it's better for the metabolism, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I just can't do that, you know, like literally I only have about 2 meals a day. Some days, you know, most days really. I actually don't eat a great deal, and because I feel like I don't need it. Like my body is not wanting it. So, and I think that in itself is giving me increased energy, because sometimes when you, like, I know that me in the past when I used to eat, I used to get tired. You know, I don't want to feel like that anymore. And you sort of know your triggers now when you get tired. My husband, for instance, had a bowl of pappardelle pasta the other day, and he goes, I shouldn't have had that. I feel tired now. I said, well, now you know what I'm talking about. It's, you know, you've got to eat what doesn't make you tired, and you've got to eat at the times that you know, are going to suit your body. And that's why I say that's why I don't have lunch with you. You know, this is why I don't have breakfast with you, because I don't feel like doing that, you know, like my body doesn't feel like eating like that.
You know, what's happening is you have a better communication system now. Part of that microbiome is like able to give the brain the feedback of, okay, we're full, we're satiated, we don't need anymore. And when you eat multiple times and you're inflamed and the microbiome's not good and your carb levels are super high, you don't have that feedback loop of, okay, we're full, we don't need any more. If anything, it's not getting into the cell and we don't feel like we were satisfied. I feel like I need something sweet after that because I didn't feel nourished. And in a sort of a paradoxical way, the way you're doing it is you're more energized and you don't have those cravings, those, you know, those needs to have something. Plus you're listening to your body and you're eating instinctually, which I think where you are is awesome. Like I said, I'm like not accepting of, okay, let's just stop there. I think the next level is getting you to like a 3-day fast, and then maybe getting you to every 6 weeks, like a 7-day fast, where you're really getting your body into that, what's called autophagy. And for you, I think that's important based on how much I don't like to use the word damage, but how much injury to the tissues were done with the inflammation that you had for that amount of time, especially like just you weren't a good communicator of your body. I mean, literally you had an out of body experience on the uphill, you know, climb. And by then it was already too late. Right. So
that's right.
I think, yeah. So I think I'm so happy to hear how you're doing. I really am.
Can I just say though, like, because I was discussing this with my doctor that, you know, I really don't need to eat that much. I'm not hungry. And she said, oh, you're going to be depleted of your, you know, your minerals and da, 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 da. But then when I did my blood test, you know, my iron level's normal, which, you know, was never normal for 20 years. Right. So I'm like, well, you know, how do you explain that I'm eating less, but my iron's up, you know? And she couldn't explain it. So, your minerals don't become depleted because you're not eating that much, do they? It's about what's getting into your cells and.
Right. It's what's being utilized. And if you're on a negative deficit, you have inflammation, you have to cash in your savings account. And that's what's happening is you're leaching them out of your bones, you're leaching them out of your muscle. You're not doing that any longer. And what's happening is, I'm sure if we followed you around with the continual glucose monitor and a continual ketone monitor, we would see that you're in an efficient zone where you're fueling your own energy levels. Like if you look at triathlons now, where they used to do like the big carb load, you know, like they would do that. They don't do that anymore, Teresa. They know like your glycogen stores still pale in comparison to your fat stores on how much more energy you have to be able to fuel your distance with consuming your own tissues. Even if you're super skinny and you're a lean triathlon, the visceral fat is still going to fuel you, I want to say 15, 20 times more than you have in your glycogen stores. So it's just our body's more efficient. It's engineered that way, right? It's engineered to be able to have 9 calories for every gram of fat and 4 calories for every gram of carbs. And yet there's, you know, you have infinite amount of stores of fat in your body because it just goes everywhere. If you're, 600 pounds, there's not a limit on how much fat you can store for energy, but there's a limit on how much glycogen you can store in your liver and your muscles. And that upper limit is so much lower than the amount of energy you can store in your muscle, in your fat and your visceral areas too. So to answer your question, your body's just regulating itself better. It's not cashing in the funds. It's putting out inflammation fires. It's communicating a lot better, and it's working efficiently the way it should. And that's what you are. I mean, that's what I intend. That's what I hope to get with all the people I work with. And I think you said it pretty nicely in terms of you've got to want it, and you've got to be open to, a paradigm shift. Like you've been here, you've tried that, you've tried this. Someone, emailed me today and he told me about his testosterone levels and this is wrong. And I said, it's your immune system. His lymphocytes were high. And they said, well, what about my DHM? Like, it's your immune system. And he doesn't want to hear, he wants me to tell him, okay, try DHEA. And, it's like, why are you asking? So
I know. People don't want to listen. I know, Joel. I know.
Yeah, they don't want to listen. Yeah. So
look, I've worked out in life, the more truthful you are, the more people don't like it, like that. They don't want to hear the truth. They really don't. They get sucked in by a liar, and no one likes hearing the truth. And, when you become your soul becomes a little bit more advanced because you've been ill for so long and you see things differently now. You're kind of not like everyone else because you kind of, you've been through something that has forced you to see things differently. I just want the truth. That's me. I've always searched for the truth, and I've never stopped searching for the truth. And the way I am with people is, I talk the truth. And a lot of people don't like it. I don't make many friends because of it, because I call a spade. And no one likes to hear it, Joel. No one likes to hear it. So that's unfortunate about people and life, because people get sucked in with the wrong people because they sell a story, but it's not the truth, and someone who's passionate about something and tells the truth. Yeah. People don't want to hear it.
There's no free lunch, right? There's no quick fix. And people want that silver bullet, go to bed, wake up in the morning, Jack and the Beanstalk, go to the top of the mountain, and it's there. Right. And the cold hard reality is that it takes hard work and it takes discipline and I think in general, I think people are lazy and they're 100%. Fearful.
100%. 100%. I'm in a lot of forums, in Australian forums and stuff. And, kind of like I cringe when, someone puts a post up about, they got adrenal fatigue and, what can I do to help? And these people posting saying, take ashwagandha and take holy basil and, take this, take that. Well, adaptogens aren't going to do it. They're not going to cut it, and I say that. It's not one, don't rely on a supplement to fix you because it just won't. And then there's people posting up about, the adrenal, Metagenics brand tablets, this will fix you, blah, 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 trying to sell their products. And, I just turn around and say, well, that's complete rubbish, because it's not one adaptogen it's not going to fix you. It's your whole system, and you've got to evaluate your whole system. You got to check your DNA out. You got to check what you're doing. You're going to want it as well. You have to want the change, because if you don't want it, because some people like being stuck in that. It serves a purpose for them.
They identify. They get attention when they were younger, and dad, you know, and mom paid attention, you know, and they identify. It's a label for them that makes them feel safe. That's true.
100%, Joel, because people like staying in the victim mode status, a lot of them, you know, and I've noticed that with a lot of girlfriends of mine that have gone through divorces, you know, and they're stuck in this victim mode status, and it's just about, you know, them wanting to sponge a certain energy off someone. And, you know, I turn around and I say, well, you can't do that. You know, don't feed off people's energy. You've got to feed off your own energy. You're going to have to accept your own energy, and not, you have to cut the umbilical cord at some stage, you know. So, you know, but they don't like to hear it. No one likes to hear it.
But, you know, in their defense, to some of the defenses, they're sick. They're too sick too. Where,
I know.
Not thinking right. You know, the frequency's on the wrong dial. And if you mix that with the propensity of laziness, then you have the perfect storm for not getting better. But if there's a glimmer of, okay, I want to get better, I'm open to the idea that I can get better, but at the same time, I can't, my brain's foggy and I can't really conceptualize what you're telling me. I think you're contending with that too, Teresa, where not only are they lazy, but they're sick and their brains aren't firing the way they should. So they're not grasping the concepts, even if they were open to it, you know? And I think
I agree with you, because I've been there and I've had all that. But, you know, like, I just wanted to keep trying, Joel. That was me. I needed someone to give me the tools to help me, to explain to me, because I needed answers. And I've always been the type of person that's thirsty for answers. And, you know, when something doesn't work, you know, I get really upset about it. And I think, oh, okay, I'll be in victim mode for about a week. And then I'll say, okay, let's start again. It's got to be something else. And I keep going, you know, keep bunny hopping till I get it. But yeah, I know there is a lot of sick people out there, and you know, but you do have to want the change. You really have to want the change, and you really have to work hard at it, Joel. You have to. It's not easy to change your diet, especially when you've been used to chocolate and sugar like me. You know, I was a chocoholic.
Yeah, there's an addiction there. But even still, like, you know, I remember when we first started, I think we did a little dance, right? We took a while, and I finally said to Teresa, I don't know what you're thinking about. Let's just get started here, you know? And there was a little bit of trepidation. And when you do go to see the people of the world, and you've already spent tens of thousands of dollars, and you're wondering, is this going to be another Me Too program? There's so many other, you know, I remember when we first started, I was like, okay, let's go, Teresa. I don't understand what we're confused about here. And, you know, it wasn't because I was being inconsiderate. It was just more like I was very confident that we can help you. But on the flip side, you're like, is this another one of those things? I don't know.
Yeah, I was very guarded. Yeah.
There's a lot of that, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because, like, you know, I was sick since June 16, 1996, and I've been already 20 odd years of having to deal with people that would promise stuff but never deliver. So you do become guarded, and you think, oh, is this another shit talk? You know, is this another this, that? You know, but yeah, I'm always willing to try and give someone, yeah, it takes a while for me to think about it, but then I think, you know, what have I got to lose? You know, I'm already in crisis mode, you know, and that's the way you see it. And you know, you just need that reassurance that, you know, you're taking the right, you know, there's no, you know, you just have to be intuitively guided and say, yeah, okay, I'll work with this person, but you do have to want it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I could even just use this. Well, we'll set up another time, but even what we just talked about, if someone could be a fly on the wall to listening to this is so, I mean, it's awesome. I'm so happy
you can post this if you like. I'm not worried at all. You know, like, if people write to me and, you know, that they might think you're setting up a false testimonial or whatever, you know, like a lot of, you know, the company, they set out all these, you know, false marketing and testimonials and stuff, you know, I'm happy for you to give him my email and contact details. They want to speak to me, you know, because like, to me, I say what's the truth in my eyes and what's helped me. And you've really helped me, Joel. You know, you've given me the tools that I never had, that I was seeking.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, listen, I say it always. We become the facilitator of you. You know, I don't look at it as a chiropractor. The deep-rooted philosophical chiropractors always said we just allowed the body to heal itself. We gave it the instruction, but it did the rest. And that's kind of what happened here is that, not kind of, exactly what happened here, where all of those variables been suffering for so long and needed a change and had the motivation and did the right tools. And I really think that it's sustainable for the long haul. But like I said, the next level is like, okay, how can we get that autophagy happening even more? And
Yep.
That's where, you know, the next level is for you. That's awesome, Teresa. I'm so happy for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But, but the whole thing is that, you know, if I could tell someone out there is no quick fix. Don't think it's going to be a quick fix, you know, because your health didn't get like that in one day. It was a culmination of months and years to get sick. So, you know, how can you get better in one day or 1 week? It's not like taking a course of antibiotics. You're trying to reset all your cells here and rid everything. And people have got to understand that it's a journey to get well. It's not a quick fix.
Yeah, it's taken time to get to where you are, right? I mean, that bottom line, taking time to get to where you are. It's going to take time to fix it. So so what would you, I mean, like, okay, well, what would you say, like, what would you tell someone like who was, what was I guess I would ask you, what was your like aha moment for you that was a changer for you, that realized that you weren't doing it the right way kind of thing? And then you had sort of an aha moment.
Is this before I saw you or after I saw you?
No, since we started working together, yeah.
The first 6 months were difficult, 3 to 6 months, in between the third and the 6th month, because the first 3 months is like getting used to the concepts of, you know, diet really does play a big role in fatigue. It plays a huge role. And, you know, every body, every person in the whole world is different. Their genetic makeup is different. Their cellular, you know, the way their cells work are different. You know, we're not all the same, you know, we're all different. So to me, it was sort of like, well, why can't I eat the carbs? You know, I'm Italian, you know.
Right.
I got brought up with pasta and cannelloni and lasagna, and to me that took a lot to change, because I'd been eating like that. I was primarily a carb person. I really didn't hardly ever ate meat, you know, like I you know, or anything like that. And I like chicken, but primarily carb person, lived off carbs. So when you get to a point of depletion like I did, you know, the overtraining and you know, you have that metabolic crash, or that whole crash to start with, I think that the carbs don't serve you well. And that's why then the inflammation all kicked in, because my body just didn't want it. It really didn't want it, and it needed to recover. And so for somehow I just wasn't getting energy into my cells. And it's the whole thing that you said, you know, the whole process is what happened to me, you know. So I depleted reserves. I depleted absolutely everything. But to me, the aha moment was, you know, when you got me to, you know, look at my ketones and the, you know, the blood sugar and all that. Right. And then I started monitoring myself. It's almost like you're taking control over yourself again. Right. You're in charge of your body and you're responsible for yourself again. And that's what you kind of did and navigated me towards, because a lot of people don't have take control over what they eat or how they think or what they do. It's just automatic. You know, they're all on automatic pilot because they've lived like that and they don't know any better. And that was me.
Right.
So my aha moment was probably you know, the overhaul of the diet when you started explaining about the 50 grams and this is what I you know, try this, you know, and, you know, I'm always up for a challenge. So I said, okay, well, let's try it. And I'm thinking in my head, it's not going to work, you know, it's another diet thing, you know, it's not going to work.
Right.
So, you know, I started trying it, and the first week was really, really difficult. I think I remember saying that to you. It's, geez, I'll tell you what, Joel, you know, cutting out my chocolate, which I love, you know, cutting my pasta, having to cook different, re-educate my way of thinking and cooking and living off fats. You know, how could this be good for me? My cholesterol was 7.1, which my doctor said was high. How could this be good for me? I'm going to, you know, my cholesterol's going to go through the roof. Right. So the aha moment was then probably 3 weeks in from the diet, I started to feel a little bit different in my head. Like it's almost like a, you know, the clouds starting to sort of dissipate.
The windshield wiper was clearing off right.
But I was starting to think for myself, and I hadn't done that in a long time. So you're starting to take control over yourself again. It's like you're steering your own ship again. Right. And to me, that was the aha moment, because it's like, I'm actually feeling good doing this, like steering my own ship, because when you've been sick for so long, you haven't steered your ship, and you don't want to steer your ship because you're too sick. So it's like, well, you know what? I really have to make this work, and I have to do this for myself. And that was the aha moment, probably a month in from doing the keto way. Yeah. Is that, and then the weight just started dropping.
No, it would come off.
And you're letting go. You're letting go. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. I remember getting an email from you, like how depleted you were, and like your glucose was low and your ketones were low. And that was where we taught you, okay, and it's transition here where you're not getting enough healthy fats, and you need to eat sooner because you are depleted here. And that doesn't happen a lot. And I knew as soon as I saw that they were going to have some really good improvements, because a lot of people can't do that, Teresa, where they can't cut the carbs and they'll see that glucose fall. In your case, you were able to do that. And that was really encouraging. And then once we sort of that light bulb went off where, okay, I got to actually, if I'm going to cut the carbs, I got to get enough fuel with the healthy fats. And that's where I think maybe 3 or 4 weeks in, you started to think for yourself and realize, okay, this probably is going to work too, right?
100%, Joel, because like I never took accountability of what I was actually feeding myself. I'd just eat. If I was hungry, I'd eat. And I'd eat a quick meal, pasta. I'd always cook for myself. You know, I've always been a cook. But, you know, it's a stuff that I knew growing up as an Italian. You know, how to sort of eat like that. Everything's carb related.
Yeah. Bread, well, I think most people are, whether you're Italian or not. I mean, we're, you know, especially with the low fat. The low fat was the movement. The low fat movement was high carb, low fat movement. Yeah. And then it became low carb, high protein, and still low fat. As far as what were some of the things that you had then and that you don't have now? So, I mean, obviously the inflammation, looking back at yourself, the balance, the focus, the fatigue. What were some of the other things that you had then that you don't have, or that you don't have now? Or what are the things that you have now that you didn't have then?
What I have now is the ability to think. And that's huge, because when you're sick, you don't have the ability to think. You don't want to think, and that's the truth. Because when you're too depleted and you're too fatigued, you just don't want to think, because you think, you give up. You can't think. Literally, you can't think. Now I can think. And because I can think, my decision-making's better. I set myself goals. I set myself a plan for what I'm going to accomplish every day. I've got a diary now. I never had a diary. You know, you write down in the diary. And I have time to plan my meals now. Like I make time to plan my meals now. Like I'll go to the shop and I'll say, okay, I've got to get X amount of vegetables, X amount of this, X amount of that. So my choices, That's the big difference. Are my
Right.
choices and my ability to cope with any stress.
Yeah.
I'm a lot more relaxed.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing when it's going wrong, it's all going wrong, and when it's going right, it's all going right. It's either all off or it's all on. And what would you
There's no
say to
in
someone?
between.
Yeah, there's no in between. What would you say for someone who was, again, like a sort of skeptical, like, oh, this wouldn't work for me, or this was only because of you, or it was, what would you say to that person?
I would say never go in with a pessimistic or, a belief that it's not going to work. To me, I have to check everything. And I used to make the assumptions that it's not going to work, because you think you know yourself. That's the whole thing. You think you know yourself and nobody else knows you. And, in a lot of respects, intuitively, you do know yourself. But when you're sick, you don't know yourself. And that's the different thing, because you don't know yourself when you're sick, you've got a stubborn belief that you actually do know yourself. It's a two-way thing. So then when you've got someone such as you coming and, we agree to work with each other, and I agree to let you help me and listen, then you listen. And when you're sick, you think, this person's not going to help me, because it's actually your belief system that's saying, either A, you don't want to get better, or B, he doesn't know what he's talking about because he doesn't know me more than what I know myself. But you're it's very distorted in how you think. And to put your faith into someone is a difficult thing when you're sick. And that's why a lot of people just don't want to do it, because they don't want to give up control over themselves, and they don't want to let go of what's been carrying them through all these years, so that they're afraid to change. People are afraid of the transition. But then when you start working with someone like yourself, and you slowly get into, to unlock the sort of, bring down the guard and explain things, because as sick people, not a lot of professionals have actually explained what goes on in our bodies and what's going wrong with us. And we need to know. We really need to know that, A, it's not just, mental, like they've said it is. And right. B, I want to know the physiological aspect of I want to know my body. I want to know what's going on. I want to take responsibility for it. Right. But at the same time, when you're sick, you can't do that, because you can't think. And you're too scared to let someone else do the thinking for you as right. well. So part of it is you just have to let go and have to learn to trust.
Right. The other part, though.
You have to try
it. But I would say, though, there was something deeper, like still left on the bucket list that motivated you to be open for that. So that was like, okay, I'm 44 or 43 and I can't live my life like this any longer. And it's, I got lots of things to do. I'm letting my spouse down. I'm letting myself down. Yeah. I'm too young to live like this. And it's more painful to live like this and not do anything than it would be to do something. And that's not everyone has that either, right?
No, to me it was, I got to a point where I really wanted it, Joel, because I watched my mum and dad pass away and they never got to see me well. I never got to experience the joy that I'd want to experience with them if I was 100% well. And to me, when they died, both now 6 and 7 years ago, 9 months of each other, to me, that was the moment that I thought, I felt a bit of guilt for not being well. And so, when I came across you, I said, I have to do this now. I really have to do this now, because I don't want to live like this. Who wants to live like this? You've got to just give up the skin and say, I'm ready to change. I'm ready to take this and try it, because what have I got to lose?
Right.
What have you got to lose, you know?
Yeah.
People look at it like, oh, you know, but it costs so much and this and that. And I've heard people say that in forums. I say, well, how much money have you actually spent over the years trying to get better and wasting it because you haven't had the answers that you've, because I know for a fact I've spent probably hundreds of thousands actually. And the knowledge that you give is invaluable. It's priceless. And you know, you're the type of person that doesn't give up until you actually nail something, you know, and that's the sign of a really good healer. And I think you've probably been put on this earth to heal a lot of people.
Oh, you're giving me goosebumps, but I want more Teresas that I can help, because it's you need to have that. You need to have the knowledge, yet the ignorance. You need to have the desire, you know, yet the ability to control, like, you know, and have some trepidation too. Like, you need all those things, but you need mostly like the desire to get better. And I think like that motivation of having that guilt and knowing like, okay, you've used that positively to say, okay, I got to get better. Like, I got to just burn the bridges or burn the boats. And that's it, you know. That's all.
You know what? You just have to say, you know, to me, I have to say, stuff it. What do I got to lose? I don't want to stuff it. What have I got to lose? I don't want to be like this anymore. And that's the whole thing. I look in the mirror and say, I don't want to be like this anymore. I want to get better. Right. I want to do things. I want to live life again. I want to breathe the air in. I want to feel the air. I want to be part of it, because I was someone who couldn't get out of bed for 3 years in a row. You know, 3 years in a row. I couldn't even get in a car and be a passenger because movement was too much, you know. And to go from that, you know, you feel like you're dead. You feel like you've died. And you think, you know, it's at the point where you think, what have I got to lose? You can't be like that. You know, you can't feel like that. You got life, you know, you can't give it away. You can't, you know, exchange it for something. You know, you just got to stand up and say, I've got to live my best life. You know, I have to do it for my family, for me, and for the gift that my parents gave me in being here, you know.
Yeah.
So, you need the right tools, Joel. You need the healer.
Yeah.
You're the tool person.
Well, you know, you need both the tool person and the toolee, I guess. So you need both, right? You need the person who's going to use the tool and the person who's going to teach how to use the tool. So awesome, Teresa. I'm so happy. I mean, you just made my year. You did. I'm so happy. And you know,
you're a fighter. You're a real fighter.
You know, I'll tell you, these are the intrinsics of the job that make everything so great, you know. And now you have your life, and it's not all, you know, great. It's not all rose petals and lollipops.
No, life is it.
Right.